Hey guys, welcome to another video. So this video will be reviewing Arsenal's season so far in the Premier League. Obviously Arsenal 9th in the Premier League on 40 points. Obviously it's a season of a lot of change in terms of managers, but I'll go through that later on in the video. So first of all I'm going to review obviously their cup competitions. Obviously they're still in the FA Cup, they're in the 6th round. They've got a tie away at Sheffield United. Obviously the FA Cup is obviously a competition where Arsenal have done very well in the past, and obviously it's a cup that means a lot to the fans. So again they're doing well in that respect. In the League Cup they were knocked out by Liverpool on penalties. It was a crazy game, that game. It was 5-5 in the end after extra time and everything. Liverpool won 5-4 on penalties. It was a game where obviously both of the teams rotated. Liverpool played a lot of youngsters that were sort of making their debuts and didn't have a lot of experience. Whereas Arsenal played a lot of established youngsters who'd obviously had played in the Premier League before, like Willock, Saka, those kind of players. So on paper, Arsenal's actually youngsters were better. And Arsenal did actually play quite well that game, but ultimately they got pegged back by Liverpool, and then Liverpool won on penalties. Again, it was a game Arsenal should have won, but you know, unfortunately they didn't, and it goes to show again the defence just needs to be improved. I know obviously it was a lot of changes for that game. But again, it was defensive errors that led to Liverpool's goals, 2 late goals to level the tie. And you know, even when it's a Premier League game, like with a full squad out, it's still the defence that's the issue. Again, but I'll talk about that a bit later in the video. But yeah, knocked out of the League Cup by Liverpool on penalties. Europa League, they're knocked out by Olympiacos in the round of 32 on away goals. They did a good job in the first leg, winning 1-0, getting that away goal and a clean sheet as well. And sort of coming back and leading up to sort of the second leg, I was thinking, yeah, you know, Arsenal are going to go through. But at the second leg at the Emirates, they didn't play very well at all. I don't know if they turned up expecting to win. Like maybe a bit of complacency kicked in, thinking, oh, you know, we got the job done over in Olympiacos. You know, we don't really need to do much to win. But obviously Olympiacos turned up, obviously backed by a large contingent of their fans. You know, knowing that they were still in the tie, and you know they played with a bit of freedom and they looked very good. It was very sort of a cagey affair though. And obviously Olympiacos got their goal, and Arsenal started playing. And when they did play, they played very well. And you know, Aubameyang got the goal, a late goal, and it was crazy in the Emirates. You know, crazy celebrations. Aubameyang going mental. But then a few minutes later, Olympiacos got the goal to go 2-1 up. And then Arsenal needed to score another one, and then, you know, Aubameyang, late on, your top goal scorer, playing really well for them, misses an absolute sitter from about 4 yards out. Give him that shot, you give him 10 shots of that again and he would score 9 times out of 10. Unfortunately, that was the one time where he missed, and Arsenal got knocked out the Europa League, and their like biggest chance of the Champions League went. Because obviously with the Europa League, you get the Champions League if you win it as the reward. Obviously they've still potentially got a chance of it in the league. They're not that far away from 4th place, but you know, looking at the teams above them, I don't think there's enough in the Arsenal squad to get in that top 4. Obviously there's an added incentive now, obviously, because Man City have been banned from the Champions League or from European competitions for 2 seasons, so obviously that opens up a spot. But I just don't think Arsenal have enough. Obviously my first sort of bit about Arsenal is about Aubameyang. I sort of obviously look at the whole Arsenal squad, and obviously I look at their front line with obviously Aubameyang, Lacazette, Pepe, who's blown hot and cold this season, and I sort of think that is a really good forward line. And that has saved them, definitely, in terms of the goals scored. Because the top two goal scorers are Aubameyang and Lacazette. Obviously, Aubameyang scored the large majorities of them. And obviously, if you did take all of his goals out of the squad, just wipe the slate off of his goals, Arsenal would be in a relegation zone or just above it. So it shows sort of the reliability they have on Aubameyang, how valuable he is to the Arsenal squad. Obviously, there's been talk of him potentially leaving at the end of the season, but I think if he was to go and Arsenal were to let him go, it would be a crime. Arsenal would go into freefall. They're not going to get a striker of Aubameyang's quality in, and yeah, they have to keep him, in my opinion. In terms of the managers, as I said, obviously towards the end of Arsene Wenger's reign, obviously they wanted him to go. Me personally, I think he should have gone when they won the FA Cup last. That was when he should have gone. But he decided, he thought he was still good enough to manage Arsenal. He decided to stay. But ultimately, towards the end of his reign, fans were getting very frustrated. They wanted a change. They didn't think they had the Arsenal they know and love. They didn't think they were watching that. They didn't want the board to keep backing him. They wanted him to go. Ultimately, obviously, he decided to go. Even though the fans were split, they did give him a good send-off, and they respected obviously what he had done for the club. And obviously, the search for a new manager started. Obviously, their searching led them to Unai Emery, a manager who he had won the Europa League 3 seasons in a row with Seville, and obviously won a few league titles with PSG. But I think obviously Arsenal had recruited him mainly because of the experience and success in the Europa League. Obviously winning it 3 seasons in a row, and with the reward that you get for winning the Europa League, as I mentioned, you get a Champions League place. I think that's why Arsenal employed him. It looked a good appointment, when you first looked at it. But ultimately there was a lot of issues once obviously he came in. Obviously there was the language barrier. Obviously Emery tried as hard as he could to learn English, but unfortunately he couldn't, he couldn't get out what he was trying to say. He couldn't get across what he was trying to say to the players, and I just don't think the players respected him highly enough. And he just fell out, and he couldn't connect with the fans because he couldn't speak English very well. So, he was already on the back foot before he even come in. Obviously, there were a lot of on and off field issues. Obviously, he sort of fell out with Mesut Ozil. Obviously, Emery didn't feel that for what Ozil was getting paid and how valuable he was to the squad, he didn't feel that Ozil was displaying that, basically. And obviously he was leaving Ozil either out of the squad or leaving Ozil on the bench. The Arsenal fans didn't understand, for a player of that calibre, why he wasn't being brought on and why he wasn't starting. And then obviously there was the captain issue. Obviously Emery as the manager should have just picked a captain, but instead of picking it and trusting his own ability, he decided to leave it to a player's vote. Now the players' vote was for Granit Xhaka, obviously a player they obviously respected and thought he would be a good captain, but the fans didn't think Xhaka was captain material, and I kind of agreed with that, because at the end of the day he'd come in from Borussia Mönchengladbach for 35 million and he hadn't justified it. So how did that suddenly mean that he could become a captain and a leader? When there are better players like Aubameyang and Luiz who have the leadership qualities, that didn't get the picks. Ultimately, then obviously Xhaka, when he was getting substituted against Palace, a lot of fans are booing him because of another poor performance by Xhaka. Xhaka reacted, and obviously that put him even lower down in Arsenal fans' views of him. And then ultimately it led to Emery obviously leaving him out for a long period of time. And obviously there was still the defensive issues. Obviously Emery did make a few signings. He brought in obviously Pepe, he brought in Kieran Tierney, Guendouzi, and he brought in David Luiz. Now, obviously, we all know David Luiz. Obviously, he can be a really good defender, and you'll be like, wow, what a player, or he can be really bad. And unfortunately, Arsenal have got the the 50-50 split with David Luiz. Sometimes he can play, and you think, wow, what a deal Arsenal got there. He looks really good, and then you'll see him sort of fly in for a challenge. He can get left on the deck by the player, and the player goes to score. Or you'll see him try and do a stupid pass and it gets intercepted and they go on and score, and you think, wow, why did Arsenal sign him? And unfortunately, that's what you're going to get with David Luiz. So, I think 100% the priority for Arsenal has got to be get a quality defender in. Obviously, we know the prices for defenders have, been accelerated, gone up because of obviously Virgil van Dijk when he got signed for Liverpool. Obviously, it was an expensive deal. And obviously that's now seems to be the going price for defenders. But, that's obviously what you got your scouting for. And there's bound to be a defender around who you can get for cheap, but is going to obviously improve the squad. Obviously, they brought Tierney in. Obviously, he was injured when they signed him from Celtic. But obviously now he's fit and up and running. He's obviously struggling a little bit to get up to the speed of the Premier League. Obviously, it's a little bit higher in intensity than obviously the Scottish League. But it will take time, and he will be good. He will obviously show Arsenal fans the worth once he's got up and running. Obviously, Guendouzi's blown hot and cold, but he has played well considering his age. He is quite a good player. He does take quite a lot of responsibility on his shoulders. Unfortunately, the thing that obviously brings it down for me is his use of the dark arts. I don't know why he does it, but when he all gets maybe a little clip or even a good challenge, he goes on the floor, rolls around, goes, oh yeah, book him. I don't understand why he does that, and that's sort of what brings it down for me in terms of my views of Guendouzi as a player. Hopefully he can take that out of his game, and if he focuses on his football, I'm sure he can be a good player for Arsenal for a few years to come. Obviously they signed Nicolas Pepe for the wing. Quite an expensive signing for Arsenal in terms of the money that they usually spend on players, and you have to say at the moment he hasn't justified it. He has scored a few good goals every now and then. He has put a few good performances in, but it's a lot of inconsistency, and he has been dropped to the bench a few times. Obviously, experience is going to come. Obviously, the more he plays, the more he's going to get used to it, and obviously he's got to improve himself, work on a few things in training. But that's obviously the only thing Nicolas Pepe can do. That's what he's got to do. And if he doesn't knuckle down and do it, then, ultimately Arsenal will sell him. But, there's been a few positives with him, but there has been a few negatives. But I'm sure he'll come of age and be a good signing for Arsenal. Obviously, it didn't work out with Emery. And after 18 months, he did go or get sacked. Freddie Ljungberg obviously took over the reins for a little bit while he obviously looks for a manager. He brought in a few youngsters, and a few youngsters that are still in there now, in terms of Saka, a really good young left wing back, looks to have a good future at the club. Obviously Eddie Nketiah, who they brought back, we got called back from his loan spell at Leeds, and looks a very good player. In that sense, obviously they got Smith Rowe, who looks a very good player as well. So some good bunch of youngsters coming through for Arsenal. But obviously that's what Ljungberg did, gave them a chance. And some of them have managed to stay in the squad, some were involved in the matchday squads all the time. Obviously the decision was to bring Mikel Arteta in. Obviously Mikel Arteta had been the understudy to Pep Guardiola at Man City. Obviously he'd been doing his coaching badges, and obviously in his aspiration to become a manager, but Arsenal wanted him. Obviously he knew, having played at Arsenal, he knows the Arsenal way. He's well respected by the fans and by the board, and they decided to bring him in. Obviously Arteta he can communicate a lot better with the players, and he has got the players back on side, and they are playing a lot better. Even though they are ninth, from where they were obviously when he have come in, he has improved them a little bit. Obviously it's not where they want to be still at this moment. But it's going to take time. Arteta is an inexperienced manager. It's going to take time. He's not just going to come in and bang, they're going to be in Champions League places. It's going to take time because there's a lot of things that's got to be sorted out at Arsenal before they can get back to even thinking about competing for the top four or even the title. But, you know, the early signs are good. And, you know, once they sort out the defensive problems, get rid of the deadwood, sort out the issues with like Mesut Ozil, if they keep Aubameyang, you know, they've got a good chance as any. But, you know, I think overall, for Arsenal's season so far, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. I just don't think for a club like Arsenal to be ninth at this stage of the season, it's just not good enough, in my opinion. Obviously, it's going to take a few seasons probably, or quite a few seasons to get back to the level that they were. We will see investment, sticking with Arteta, you know, getting that balance with the squad, getting the way they want to play right again. You know, it's going to take time. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. If any Arsenal fans stumble across this video, what do you think of your season so far? Do you think you can keep Aubameyang? What do you think you should do with Mesut Ozil? And what do you think for your future over the next few seasons? Anyway, guys, please like and subscribe, and please join me in my next video, which will be on Burnley. Take care, guys, and goodbye.